So just basically hold it on you.
Yeah.
Okay. No no zooming or anything like that. Just get you in the center of the frame, best, more or less. It's kind of cool. You'll be getting first hand footage. You can get right down on the bees, you know.
Yeah.
Honeybees. In today's world, they're not doing so well. With the bee population dissolving so rapidly and the negative effects becoming more prominent, it's easy to see how much our environment actually depends on them. The number of crops that the world depends on honey for adds up to over 40. Without bees to pollinate these crops, they simply will not grow. The United States government has recognized the vanishing bees and labeled the epidemic as colony collapse disorder. They have even arranged an action plan to help fight the cause. But those who truly care and are taking the necessary steps to help are our local beekeepers such as Henry Culbertson.
What got you interested in starting this?
Well, for years I've been really into organic food, and ever since college days. And we used to go to these old beekeepers in Conway and buy 5 gallons of honey every year. So we always consumed vast quantities of honey. We were that back in the land movement, you know, back in those days. So we did everything organically. We kind of got out of it, not completely out of it, but so now we get older and we think, well, you know, all those things we used to do are better than the things we're doing. So we get back. So then I got the garden going and I started orange trees and grapevines. Every time people see the oranges, they say orange blossom honey. They say, why don't you have bees? Like, it's just so, you know, sort of hard to learn unless you have someone to teach you. You know, I mean, you can read in books, but how do you know? It's just a lot of. So I finally had a buddy, Joe Chandler, who had bees. He had about 3 or 4 hives, and he said, well, he'd give me one. So he gave me one. So I started up from there. Started getting magazines and reading, and then we ordered some bees in the mail. They come in the post office, which is really wild. They send you like probably 5,000 bees in a box at the post office, in a little screen box. Believe me, that means the post office does. They're calling you right away. You need to come to the post office. We have your package.
The scene at the post office doesn't last long because beekeepers give the bees a safe habitat.
Bees might have, you know, 3 or 4 swarms of a wild hive in a season, and they're lucky if one of them makes it, you know, because they got to find someplace, get established, and find them a nice hole, and then they got to produce enough honey that season and store enough pollen and honey to get through the winter. That honey's like their food, so they eat pollen, which they turn into bee bread, and then they consume the honey all year. You can sit right here and watch those. In fact, I can see some right now, and you see them streaking through the sky right there, and it's just the coolest thing to watch them.
Henry didn't neglect to mention how he loves simply sitting and watching the bees.
In a sense, they say you're keeping bees, but what the old beekeepers always said, you don't have bees like people have a dog or a cat. These are wild animals, and they just happen to live in a box you get them. So it's kind of like it's wild nature living in your box. If you're lucky enough to get them to stay there and make honey for you, then this is a delightful thing. But they're never tame. They're always wild animals, and they will turn on you when you start taking their honey. They're usually real mild. You can open them up, look in there, and they're real mild and tame. But once you start getting all the way down through the box, and they realize that the reason you're there is stealing the day you're taking honey, they'll go after you. That's why we wear the suits. You know?
Fortunately, while I was there, Henry was able to spot 2 queen bees. The queen's abdomens are longer than the regular male and female bee, allowing her to lay eggs or brood.
Wait, there she is. There she is. Right there. That's the queen.
Oh wow.
A wild queen, no dot. You see the big long abdomen?
Mm-hmm.
But that's her. So we found the queen. She's a little nervous. She's going around. Come on back up. Oh God, the queen is like the heart of the. She's like, she controls everything, and it's all they. You know, of course they don't have verbal language, so everything is dealt with pheromones and smells. She like regulates the whole colony. She tells them if it's time to make honey. She tells them if it's time to make wax. She tells them, you know, she sends out, and she does this all with basically with pheromones, like smells, you know, and scents, and then. What the bees, they always communicate. You see them getting nose to nose and touching their antenna. What they do, they go and touch the queen, and they get the signals from the queen, and then they spread it through. They say it takes, she kind of like issues an order. It takes about an hour and a half, and it goes through the entire hive. So every bee in there knows. And if she dies, about an hour and a half later, every bee in there knows the queen's dead, and they have a whole different kind of activity going on.
Even though Henry never referred to beekeeping as work once during the video, you can find Henry's honey for sale at a local art gallery in Merle's Inlet called Ebb and Flow.